In the absence of both the chairman and the vice chairman, the members will have to make a motion to appoint someone to chair today's meeting. You'll need a motion and a second and an affirmative vote to have someone chair the meeting for today. You have a quorum, but you just don't have your chair or your vice chair, so you need someone to just run.
I'll make a motion to appoint Terry Moore to open up the meeting.
I'll second
Chair.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
that.
Mr. Tidmore, you're running the meeting.
All right, well, thanks. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming this morning's meeting. I'd like to, just for condolences, and certainly I've read about David Small's his mother, and also keep her in our prayers. I'd like to open up the invocation. If Mr. Carmichael, if you do so, that would appreciate it.
Let's just pause for a moment. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for a new day. We thank you for the opportunities of life and the blessings of life. And pray for David Small's mom and her quick healing and recovery. And just thank you for the opportunity to gather and to try to do positive things for Paul County, the governor in a proper way. We pray things in Christ's name. Amen.
Our first item is approval of minutes from April 17th, 2019, and May 6th, 2019, that should be included.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
We have a motion to approve the minutes, or a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I'll abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Next item is approval of financial statements, also included in the package and emailed out. A motion to approve the financial statements.
I will also make a motion to approve the financial statements.
Okay, motion to approve the financial statements. Any second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All right, airport director's report.
Okay, we've got a couple of very positive things we can report on this month. We had our AOPA authorized, funded, sanctioned, ever how you want to put that, Rusty Pilot seminar last Wednesday. We had, Carrie, you were there, I guess we had about 20 people in attendance from our area and our region. Most of them were pilots who have gone inactive for various reasons, and the AOPA, which is an organization that works in the industry to help pilots in particular and aircraft owners, puts on this seminar for free for their members, and it's an effort to try to keep people active in aviation. So these were people who had a desire for, having been out of aviation for a while, to come back and see what has changed, to get 3 hours of instruction from a certified flight instructor, which can count towards their biannual flight review, and help transition them back into the cockpit. Our flight school, our new flight school was there, Tiger Flights, and so they were prepared to work with these pilots to get them the instruction that they need to get their biannual flight reviews back current. And so this is what full service airports are able to do. So we were very happy that we had the facility to put this on, that we have the flight school there on the base to provide the training, that we were able to help these guys. And I say guys because it happened to be all male pilots who were there for this particular session. But to help these guys get back into the air and back into aviation as either a hobby, a profession, whatever their desires may be. So that was one end of the spectrum. These were guys my age mostly. The other end of the spectrum is trying to introduce high school kids in particular to aviation as a possible career. And to that end, y'all all know that we have the FAA ACE Academy that is going to be coming up on June 10th. It's a week-long camp for primarily targeted at high school kids. And this is really coming along well. Yolanda's putting a lot of time in helping to make all of the arrangements. We have met monthly with the FAA representative that's in charge of the school. We had a meeting yesterday, which will be our last official meeting before the school starts. And it looks like everything is on track and we're ready to host a very positive event. We have a few positions left for students. We're more than 2/3 full, but we have a few seats left if there's anybody out there that would like to get involved in this. See Yolanda, she's got applications and flyers and all the necessary information. It's very affordable, $40 for the students. The rest has been provided by donations from people in the industry, some local, many of them local here that are supportive of aviation. So we're thankful for that. We will recognize them on the last day of the count, handing them a plaque, just to show a token of our appreciation for their sponsorship for this event. That's, again, it's an FAA count, but we're partnered with them on this. We're just excited to have this coming up. So those are the two big things that we've got going right now.
How many high schools?
Oh, the scholarship. Let me say a word about the scholarship. So we awarded the scholarship to a young man who was an ROTC senior from Hiram, and excited that what he wants to use that money for is flight instruction. So hopefully we'll get him tied up with our flight school and get him active over the summer here so that he can get started on his aviation career. Terry, you have a question?
How many students, Terry, signed up for the basic?
We have over 40, we have 60 seats. So we have somewhere between 10 and 15 seats available, so it's going fast. Are those numbers still accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So people are calling all the time. So as of yesterday, we had about 45.
I'll echo Terry's words. I've looked at the agenda that Mr. Flores from the FAA has put forward. This aviation career in education, I think is what it stands for, ACE. But it's all part of the STEM program, and then in AFSET, so the airspace and science and education. But it's a really good program. The FAA is completely on board. They sponsor it right now, only in the form of resources, allowing their people to kind of run it. But I think it's a program that's going to really take off. So when Terry says, tell everybody that, for young people that even might be interested in a career in aviation, it is one of the best things, one of the better programs I've seen come forth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies on board. I'll be there for FedEx to represent them. Delta's on board. Several other, aviation companies. So, but it's going to be a very, very good week for these young people. So, just wanted to hammer that home. It's a great program. So, Ricky Flores has put a lot into it. So,
And for our elected officials, Friday especially would be a good day to be there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can get the two mayors and chairman, if you're available, to come out for the little graduation ceremony that we'll be having over lunch. That would be, and to recognize the sponsors and the FAA for putting this on. So,
June 14th.
yep, Friday, June 14th.
Yeah, I think it's a program we're going to see grow and certainly return. So, I'm glad to have it.
What
Thanks, Terry.
time would it be? The one for
Lunch.
11:30 lunchtime.
On the scholarship, Yolanda didn't do a very good job at bugging me.
She did a great job. It worked too.
But I never got anything in there, but I'm assuming we'll crank it back up for the next year anyway. So
Yeah.
you'll take a check anytime.
Oh, you bet.
Cash too. All right, well, thanks, Terry.
We'll let all the checks clear the bank for this cycle, and then we'll start raising money for next year. Yeah.
All right, next item on the agenda, motion to approve tentative allocation of GDOT FAA fiscal year 20 grant in the amount of $150,000 for runway safety area improvements and design. Terry, did you have any explanation?
Yeah, this is just the first step in the grant process. We are talking now about FY20, the FY20 grant, and the GDOT, who manages all FAA money on behalf of airports in the state of Georgia, because we are a block grant state. They take care of allocating this money to the various, the 109 airports that are out there. And they notify us through what's called a tentative allocation letter that they have approved whatever projects they choose to approve off of our 5-year update plan. And so this year they have selected our runway safety area design project as the project that they're offering a grant for, we now have to turn around and notify them that we accept that decision, basically. And then that allows us to move forward with the grant preparation process and all of the engineering studies and so forth that have to take place in order for us to have all of the pricing that goes into the formal grant application and the grant award. And because we're co-sponsors, the Board of Commissioners have to do the same thing, and they passed the same or very similar motion yesterday. And so we will submit a letter back to GDOT, assuming y'all agree with this selection, and notify them that we're moving forward. And then the actual grant will be presented 8 or 9 months from now typically, and then we'll have to vote again on the acceptance of that grant, and that's where we talk about the actual funding. So now it's in round numbers. There'll be an actual contract award. We just went through this this process for our runway marking project, as you recall. And so we have now signed and returned back to GDOT the FY19 grant. And so that'll be awarded to us any day now. And we'll be able to proceed then with our runway marking. And this is just the next grant in the series. And they're going down the list of safety issues that all airports have. They prioritize funding always for safety issues. And this would be the next project that we would like to tackle to improve the environment at the airport.
What are some of the things in particular in the safety area that will be
Specifically, this is addressing the 2 big hills that have been there since the airport opened. And they are technical violations of the Part 77 surface. And that's been known from the day the airport opened. They're not huge violations. They're right on the fringes, which is why the FAA has allowed us to open and operate. But it's always been a desire to get those graded down. And so in order to do that, you first have to have a design project where you can develop the bid specifications, the grading specs, the erosion control drawings, that sort of thing. And that's what this funding would pay for.
This will be mostly centered around the design.
This is all design. There will be no construction in this phase, and then the construction presumably would be authorized in the next year.
Okay. Thank you.
And 150 grand won't move those piles of dirt or those.
Well, it won't even pay for the design.
Won't pay
So
for it.
our rough estimate on the design is $230,000, and so we will have to downscope what we would desire to do to fit whatever funding GDOT ultimately makes available. And we'll tell them that as part of the process. We'll tell them that we're happy to take the funding that's been authorized, we're happy to take it up to the full value of our project, but we have to work within whatever their funding constraints are as well. And that's the negotiation that takes place every year in this grant process.
But you say this is our top priority as far as the next one on the list?
It is our top safety priority,
Okay.
yes.
I bet
And
Jacob-
that's typically what they attack is, they go down.
Okay. Well, Jacob Redwine could, for $1,000, say, go cut those mountains off and just.
Oh, he's already done it for
Have a
free.
little
Now
slope.
he's just got to convince a bidder to actually bid on that and do it right.
And what hills are you specifically talking about?
So if you're standing on the ILS tower, you see a big hill to the left and a big hill to the right, okay? And those are the hills. Those are the ones that in our last inspection, remember we had violations because we had trees, those regenerative pine trees that grow up in our neck of the woods. If you abandon a piece of property for 10 years, you're going to come back, you're going to have a 20-foot pine tree on it. That's just the climate and the environment that we live in here. And so those trees have to be kept cut down periodically. And they hadn't been cut since the airport was open. And they had reached the point where it came to the attention of the FAA inspector who was inspecting the airfield. And so we removed all of those last year. So that's all been done. So now the next step in that process is to cut even further into the dirt to get the dirt moved. And so, now they've said, okay, you got the trees down, now let's go after the dirt pile that's there and try to get it safer for our instrument pilots who are coming in the dark of night
It's
in the
about,
clouds.
it's about a climb gradient, there's a climb gradient profile. Teresa to explain further that Terry's talking about when he says TERPS criteria. There's imagine a plane that exists from the end of the runway, and they look at that plane, and if any obstruction penetrates that plane based on a minimum climb gradient of an aircraft that'd be doing an approach, then that obstacle has to be removed. So that's what it is. So when he says ILS antenna, it's an antenna that's on the far east side of the runway. It's the primary instrument runway that a pilot can come in if the weather's bad or at night. So that's what it is.
It's actually on the west side, but I know you're a pilot. So.
Well, the glide slope antenna is actually.
No, the glide slope's on the east, but the
localizer
ILS is, the localizer's
But
on the
anyway,
west.
if that
That's where the mountains
If
are.
that helps.
Or the
Well,
hills.
I'm a lot smarter now.
You're doing better than that. All right, good. Thanks, Jerry, for that. Any other discussion on that one? Do you hear a motion to approve the tentative allocation of the grant in the amount of $150,000 for runway safety area improvements?
So moved.
I hear a motion, need a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Next item, motion to award contract for the conversion of hangar 1. This is the large corporate hangar from Group 2 to Group 3 to prime contractors in the amount of $496,540.40 pending approval by the Paulding County Board of Commissioners. Terry, do you want to open up a little discussion on that?
So,
Kind of where we are
this was
based
on the agenda yesterday as well. This is, we've known for a long time that we've got a fire code compliance issue in the big hangar. We have fully vetted that and determined that the foam solution is not within our budget. And so the only other method that we have available to us is to construct the wall. We've done all of the engineering, the architectural work, we've permitted the drawings. We have a compliant contract ready to award, and we had this on the agenda from the Board of Commissioners yesterday, and they want to look at it a little bit more, so they have tabled their approval of the funding for this project. As co-sponsor of the airport, we're asking them to participate financially and pay for this upgrade. And so we now have two choices before us. We can either pass this motion so that we're ready to go, or we can table this motion and wait for them to make their decision. And if we do that, we'll have to have a called meeting to call y'all back in to then pass this motion. So it's really up to you. If you want to wait on the Board of Commissioners and make sure that they're fully satisfied and on board with this before we proceed, we can do that. Or we can go ahead and essentially pre-award from our board and move forward. As co-sponsors, we're both going to have to approve this as the financial backers of it. They certainly are critical to this decision. So with that, the downside for you, if you table this motion, is y'all have got to promise me that you'll come back for a called meeting as soon as we get this ready to go, because we don't want to delay this project any longer than it's already been delayed.
Well, I know the meeting this month was the day after, so how many days are we looking at after, if they do approve it, next board meeting?
It's whenever we can get everybody together, get this
But I
board
mean,
back
if it's
together.
3 or 4 days or a week, is it still that urgent that we have to come back and vote to approve it?
Well, this is a fire code compliance issue, and I'm not comfortable delaying this any more than we have to. We've been working very hard with the fire marshal and everyone to get this done.
I think you need to explain why you don't wait. And then my next question would be, if the Board of Commissioners doesn't approve this, what's the next step?
Let me weigh in here. So
Okay.
I'm on this board as a result of being the chairman of the Board of Commissioners. I'm not appointed. It's constitutional law, the reason I'm on here. There were questions that some of the commissioners still wanted to have answered, so they didn't have all the information to feel comfortable with going through with the full vote yesterday. They recognized the need and the requirement and support that need. I mean, to be compliant with fire codes, it's kind of a no-brainer, the way we want to use that hangar.
Yeah, but I'm not sure, I guess what I'm getting at is I'm not sure that the public's been made aware that Terry went through pardon me, I'm sorry. Terry went through the process of developing and getting a quote for this phone system that was grossly more expensive than this solution. And as a result, the board has landed on this to fix the problem, which is a creative solution that manages the budget for taxpayers. And I think that there's some credit to be had there, and you should at least publicly acknowledge that, is what I'm saying.
Well, it was a group effort with a lot of consultants and engineers,
I
but
understand that, but I think it's important for everybody to understand what you did and how you got to where you are. And I think the Board of Commissioners should have that information too.
And they had it, Terry
Okay.
presented yesterday.
All right.
Yeah, so there was a wealth of information presented, a backdrop. But when you have commissioners that have a concern, still want to vet a little bit deeper, then you have to honor that because we've got a board of commissioners that's working very well together. So.
I don't have any issue, I'm just saying, I'm asking what do we do if for some reason that doesn't pass with the Board of Commissioners? Have we thought about that?
I'm going to be positive and assume that we're going to get past this hurdle and we'll get this resolved. It's just an issue of timing. And so the issue of timing for us is, do we want to go ahead, or do y'all want to go ahead and be pre-positioned and ready to go, or do you want to wait and see how that discussion plays out? That's really what's on the table.
This is our meeting today. My recommendation would be that the Airport Authority Board goes ahead and is proactive with the support, because that's going to send a message to the Board of Commissioners also.
Well, this is definitely the most cost-effective solution to get this problem solved without question. I mean, I don't.
That's what we believe.
You're
yes.
not going to do it any cheaper than this, and we need to be able to hangar big airplanes, which is what our issue is now. So I don't see how we can't do it.
Dave, do you know what might be a primary concern that developments of yesterday that you can share with us?
The bid process has gotten the attention of I really don't want to mention names, but Terry can explain all that and.
Well, let me
has
take
explained all that.
just a minute to talk about the process that we went through, because it is important for y'all to understand. I think you know all of this, but let me summarize, because this is the only time, of course, that we can talk together as a group. And you can then be positioned to ask me questions about that you can all hear the answer to. So, in government contracting, everything that's over a certain price has to be competed, okay? We all know that, we all understand that. The state also understands that there is a desire to be able to conduct government in a cost-effective and a timely manner. So you have to balance these two things. So the state of Georgia has an organization called the Department of Administrative Services, DOAS. These are the people who manage contract vehicles of this type, among other things. And what DOAS has done is DOAS has banded together with other states, and they have developed a specification that is over 7,000 pages long that covers every construction trade, every, if you want to pour concrete, if you want to build a building, if you want to put up sheetrock, or if you want to hang a big wall in a commercial hangar, which is what we're doing here, a 25,000 square foot building. The specifications for that are all covered, competed, and pre-awarded to multiple vendors. In this case,
Through a GSA type.
it's a GSA type contract. Those of you that are familiar with the federal version of this, it's called GSA, Government Services Administration. And DOAS has awarded this contract since 2009. It's actually in its third rendering now. And so we as a government entity can choose to use that. We don't have to, we're not compelled to use it, but we can choose to use it. The county has bought squad cars before on similar statewide contracts. The school system buys food for the cafeteria on statewide contracts, so that they don't have to develop a specification. Let's use
Well,
this.
so what's the downside of going outside of the process? outside of
Okay,
this
and I
process?
was just going to address that. So the downside is this grant that we're talking about right now for doing the development that you just passed for the technical assistance acknowledgement is for design, okay? No construction, design. A big part of that design is developing the spec package that goes out on the street for competitive bid, okay? And that spec package, in that particular case, is going to cost us over $100,000 to develop, to do the design and develop. If you can do that on a state contract basis, your cost of developing that bid package is eliminated, okay? So we are taking advantage of the fact that the state has already done a bid package and awarded a contract to multiple vendors, 15 in this case, who are all qualified vendors, to then take our standard, which is our package that's already been approved for permitting by Paulding County, and they have a third party called Gordian. Gordian is a company who works between us and the state and vets all of the pricing information as an independent third party to say that the pricing is compliant with this competitively awarded contract, and that gives you the credit for a competitively awarded construction contract without the cost of the full bid package. That's the advantage.
What was the question from the Board of Commissioners about that process, Commissioner Carmichael?
They would like to vet and consider maybe going outside of the government process. You know, look at some opportunities with a private bid, or an outside bid, just as you've suggested, just to compare. It all came up pretty fast, and it was put on the agenda, and we decided to discuss it, and, you know,
But don't we have to spend a lot more money?
method of extending so that you have more time to
But don't we have to spend a lot more money to put a bid specification?
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, that's the
we
downside.
we can't use the existing specification that the state folks use. So
No,
we'll
we
have
can't-
to-
we can't
we'd
go
have to take-
outside of-
So what does that do to the window of time?
I can't answer that.
I mean, are we talking months?
If for us to go out and go outside of this state construction contract that we could legally use, 6 months. It'd probably cost you 6 months to develop the
We've got a
spec.
pretty significant exposure with an airplane sitting in a hangar at this point, correct?
That's our position.
Okay.
It was tabled to a specific date, which is the second meeting in June, the 25th of June. So that seemed like a long time, but then if you're going to try to assemble information, you know, 2 weeks comes up very quickly as far as doing it at the very next meeting. So
Could it be moved up? Dave?
Yeah,
Could it be moved
yeah,
up if
certainly.
we get right on it and address some of the concerns in the meantime?
Absolutely.
We could,
you may table to the 25th of June, but if you decide to put it back on the agenda at our next meeting on the 30th of May, then it'll be on the next meeting's agenda.
Terry's done
And to
enormous-
clarify, I haven't suggested we go out of the process. I'm simply asking the question so that everybody can hear the answer. I'm supportive of what Terry's done here based on the long hours that we've put into this already to get to the solution that we've got. You know, there may be somebody out there who can actually do this work slightly cheaper, but when you couple that with the additional design element that we're gonna have to spend money on, I don't know that we're not right back where we were.
And that's the exact issue. That is the issue. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, we do have a classification issue with the hangar, and that's what we're trying to solve
Right.
ultimately. So I get that, that needs to be done regardless. Terry has done an amazing job. I've been following his work on this from the beginning, and I know what he's done in the background work and everything that he has put forward. He's going to spend a legwork and hours to fix the problem, and I think we will get there. That being said, you know, what Commissioner Carmichael says with respect to, you know, the Board of Commissioners having having any concern, you know, just as the co-sponsor of the airport, I tend to think that there may be value from the relationship moving forward, potentially honoring that the fact that they did table it and want more information. I think the information, Terry, that you have is probably going to suffice, that you have already done. It might take a little more explanation. It might take a little more, you know, other than what you may have potentially had within the meeting. And I know your knowledge of the background and where we need to go with the hangar and why is extensive. So I don't know that if we honor, to use Dave's words, that tabling, to get right on it, make it a high priority, provide, you know, the commissioners that have the concern with what they need in the short term. I don't know if we can get it moved up on the agenda to the 28th. I guess would be the next
It's
meeting.
actually the 30th, instead of a Tuesday, it'll be a Thursday. And may I just say that the board members were very complimentary and appreciative of the work that Terry's done, so that was expressed openly.
Well, we have a duty to provide all the answers. I mean, that's,
Absolutely.
well, that's
I agree.
the bottom line. You guys are in a budget, you guys are trying to deal with your budget right now. You need to understand what the full ramifications of it are. We owe that explanation to the taxpayers, so.
That all being said, it's board decision, but I would lean towards tabling this motion today and get on top of it ASAP, get the information out there that needs to get out there. And I don't think by doing that, I think the BOC would appreciate that, just by the fact that what Dan's saying is right. It is our obligation to provide that information. And if there's a concern from our co-sponsor, then I personally would like to alleviate that concern as best we can. And I think we can, and then jump right on it and hopefully get it back on the agenda on the 30th. That would be my recommendation.
I like your recommendation. I don't feel comfortable approving this until the BOC has made their decision.
So that may be conservative, but like I said, but I also recognize what Terry's done. And I don't have any concern with respect to the work he's done, or the effort he's put into it, or the facts he brings to the table. That is not my concern at all. It's more a concern of bringing our co-sponsor alongside of us and making sure that everybody's in the same should use it. So that's kind of how I see it. So that's my recommendation, just to take the motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on
It
that?
needs to be, you need to move it to table, and then move to table it to a particular point in time, so table it to the next meeting.
Well, look at the calendar. When's our next meeting? And we can, actually, on that note, Tom, if the BOC, the Board of Commissioners meets on the 30th, and they agree to move forward and approve the funding, can we not have a call meeting after that? So we can meet.
You could have a call meeting, but this motion has to, you have to table to a particular point in time. And if you have a call meeting in the interim, you can make a motion at that meeting to remove it from the table.
Okay.
But it still has
June
to-
19th.
Okay.
No,
Well, that
June 19th.
being the case, then I would make a motion that we table, awarding the contract for the conversion of hangar 1, Group 2, Group 3, as stated in the motion today, table it to the next regular meeting.
Jenny.
The 19th.
A second.
Any other discussion?
Strongly encourage contact with the Board of Commissioners and individual conversations, so that you understand, that the members of this board understands. Also strongly underscore the value of co-sponsors working together. And it makes for much better airport operation and overall county teamwork. You know.
I agree.
Oh,
Terry, I will make,
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, I watched the video on the meeting, but, I mean, obviously there are true concerns such as, you know, like your idea of tabling it, or them feel comfortable with their.
I think we can alleviate those concerns, just give it just a little bit of time, is all I'm saying, so. And Terry, I'll make myself available to you, so after, as soon as we get out here today, let me know what you need, we can sit down and begin, whatever we need to do to get the concerns pushed out to the BFC, okay? So, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is to, motion to go to closed session to discuss real estate, personnel litigation. Do I hear a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We call the regular scheduled meeting back to order again, and report that no action was taken in executive session. At this point, other than my oversight, and I apologize, I don't do this position every day, but Commissioner Kager, thank you for being here. I'd like to recognize you, thanks for being here and supporting that. So, other than that, one item, any other comments or questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve or to adjourn our regular scheduled meeting.
So moved.
Motion on the table?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is what we're doing.